Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of acetaminophen, is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
Yeah. Dr. Taco giving you advice. Ain't that nice? Today's date, September 24th, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means we try to do the best we can, citing from sources that have award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, whatever extreme, left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. We provide you with just the facts. At the same time, we do try to watch our language on this show, but hey, words do fly. At the same time, guys, there might be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, we got to start with that. Because number one, only Taco would make fun of anybody else who is mentally disabled. He considers old, although he's exactly a spray-tanned, overdue chicken himself. But yet one little word seems to trip him up. But it's not the word we're laughing at. It's the fact of the medical advice he is trying to give.
Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good.
In a rambling statement, long on opinion, but with little new science, President Donald Trump said the FDA would tell doctors that the use of acetaminophen or Tylenol in pregnancy can increase the risk of autism.
If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol.
FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary pointing to several studies, including one from Mount Sinai, that says prenatal exposure may increase the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism, but that further research is needed to confirm these associations and determine causality and mechanisms. Tylenol's maker strongly disagreeing with the White House, saying in a statement that a decade of rigorous research confirms there is no credible evidence linking acetaminophen to autism. And the medical community is not changing its guidance. Tonight, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists still says it is safe to take acetaminophen during pregnancy.
We've been studying that medication for over 20 years. There have been numerous well-designed trials that have come out that have showed safety and efficacy.
The federal government says it's spending $50 million to look for the cause of autism. Despite decades of research showing no connection between vaccines and autism, today Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. brought it up again.
One area that we are closely examining, as the president mentioned, is vaccines.
Tammy Shaw is a nurse.
Show me the science. Show me the good studies. Show me repeat studies.
Her middle child, Jeffrey, has autism.
So adding more uncertainty, especially with something that I can't change, just makes things more confusing and more frustrating and doesn't actually help our kids or the families.
Okay, with that, Ann joins us now live in studio. So, Ann, besides sending this letter to doctors, is the administration taking any other action?
They are. Secretary Kennedy says that they will start the process of a safety label change on acetaminophen products, as well as a national public service campaign. And it will also encourage clinicians to use the lowest dose of acetaminophen for the shortest period of time if it's necessary for pregnant women.
Okay. Let's I'm trying to find the best ways I can say this without just saying it's bullshit. It is. Okay, first and foremost, I gotta stress this very freaking heavily. Taco is not experienced, not an expert in anything outside of bullshit. He's got a PhD in bullshit. I'll give him that. RFK, he is an anti-vaxxer who literally has a few brain cells short of being considered functional. This guy, who I keep on every time he talks, I'm like, bruh, one good cough will clear up whatever is going on with your throat situation. But RFK is an anti-vaxxer. He believes, and again, this is anti-vaxxer conspiracy 101. They will always be the first ones to sit there and say, well, I don't think that that we should be, giving our babies, giving our toddlers all of these shots, all of this. I don't understand why all these boosters are necessary for toddlers. And the crown jewel of it all, vaccines cause autism. What's the source? Trust me, bro. I'm sorry. And I say this out of defense for those who are physicians, who are researchers, clinical researchers, who are medical healthcare professionals, who are nurses, nurse practitioners. If you work in the medical field, I feel for you. Literally and figuratively, I feel for you. Because not only did you spend years in medical school, years in residency, getting constantly drilled by medical boards for certification, only for a guy who literally is the definition of malnutrition, and his wide use of the internet is going to put on his tinfoil hat and say, you don't know what you're talking about. Acetaminophen is been given to pregnant women for years. You know why? Because it's been studied. There are years and decades of clinical trials and research that show that it is completely and utterly safe for pregnant women to take. I know because my wife, when she had our two kids, she took it and was fine. But what kills me out of all this is this might link to autism. Okay, as an uncle of a niece and nephew who are considered autistic. Number one, there is nothing wrong with autistic children. They are freaking perfect. They just see the world differently than the rest of us do. Doesn't mean that they're not any more perfect than children are. They just see the world different. With that being said, autism is still a new field, a relatively new field of how it's diagnosed, of how it's treated, how you can detect it. It's still a growing field. That being said, there are still mountains of studies that show there is not a link between vaccines and autism. All of the medical field agrees with this one statement. And yet, the brain dead Secretary of Health and Human Services, RFK, is trying to say, well, we're going to do a campaign on this. While you have medical professionals going, where's the research? Where's your trials? Where's the data to back up your claim? Because I'm sorry, I am not going to trust a man that needs a throat lozenge, chamomile tea, and possibly a lung transplant is going to sit there and tell me what doctors have been telling their patients for years. For the simple fact of the matter that it is completely and utterly safe. And it is. And they need to admit as such. But the reason though they're not admitting it should be a dead giveaway that this is bullshit. But the thing about it is, and here's why I say it's going to be scary about this. What's scary about all of this is, y'all, some people are going to believe it. You know why? Because these are the same people, and I say this all heavily because I don't know if you guys remember this, but I want to bring this up because even though this was the height of COVID, and yes, Taco was president at the time, I want to bring up this gem that, you know, everybody should remember.
Thank you very much. So I asked Bill a question that probably some of you are thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right. And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
Yes, the infamous disinfectant, when he sat there and said, you know what, maybe you should try drinking bleach. Drinking bleach seems to eradicate it, or injecting bleach seems to eradicate it. For all those that don't remember, there were folks that were hospitalized that actually tried to drink bleach during COVID and poisoned themselves because, you know, you're not supposed to inject or ingest bleach because that's the reason why we have to put warning labels on things, because we have, unfortunately, the law of Darwinism seems to work in our group amongst our race, that you have folks out there that will try this stuff because Taco and RFK said so. And I feel for women. I really do in this country. I feel for women because Lord knows if you don't want to be pregnant, they'll try to force you to get pregnant. If you are pregnant and don't want to carry the pregnancy, they're going to try to force you to do it anyway. You haven't, and they almost make it feel like you have no autonomous rights of your own body. They treat you bad. They treat you like a broodmare more than you treat you like your actual human being. And on top of that, you have these tinfoil conspiracy anti-vaxxers telling you that, hey, you shouldn't take this with no data. That is dangerous. But then again, what do you expect from anti-vaxxers? Because they believe they're smart because they do their research. We're not realizing that everything on the internet, unless you can back it up with at least a few peer reviews in the medical field, which again, they all go by, which is what they lack. So again, before I move on, please, I beg of you, listen to medical care professionals. Listen to doctors, physicians, surgeons. Listen to the people who have actually went to school, have the board certifications, have the degrees that earn the titles that they have. Listen to them before you listen to a guy who can't say one word and doesn't realize, you know, Google is your best friend if you want to actually pronounce a certain word. But we shouldn't be surprised about this because Taco went to the UN and, well, decided to act like the parent that's trying to scold children. I wish I could make this up.
President Trump arrived at the UN, the malfunctions piling up, the escalator stopping the moment he and the First Lady stepped on, and the teleprompter failing just as he started to speak.
These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter.
All as he delivered a scathing message, arguing the UN has become irrelevant.
What is the purpose of the United Nations?
Saying they've failed to stop global conflicts.
All they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action.
And sending this warning to leaders in Western Europe.
Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe,
urging them to adopt his crackdown on illegal immigration.
It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. Let's see, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
But despite his criticism of the UN, the president's own efforts to end wars in Ukraine and in Gaza have largely stalled. But in a sudden shift, after this meeting with Ukraine's President Zelensky,
thanks to our soldiers, we have this possibility, this opportunity.
Tonight, President Trump urging Ukraine to expand the battlefield, after earlier warning they may have to concede territory for peace. Writing, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form.
The other side can fight too, and they've proven that. Maybe it could be that Russia's a paper tiger. Let them get their land back. Yep. So we'll see how it all works out.
Also calling for a strong response after recent Russian incursions.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
This praise tonight from President Zelensky.
Big shift. Big shift. This post of Trump is a big shift.
And after key allies, including France and Canada, announced their recognition of a Palestinian state,
Canada recognizes the state of Palestine.
President Trump condemning that move.
The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. Instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now.
Garrett joins us.
So we're going to stop it right there just because Taco trying to go to the UN and telling them everything they did wrong and everything he did right. See, the one thing about Taco that amazes me so, it is amazing that he never takes responsibility for his massive failures. But if he gets one iota of a victory, he's taking a victory lap like he just solved all the world wars. He figured out world peace. He figured out whatever it is. Even if it's a slim, even a broken clock is right twice a day, folks. But what I'm getting at is, whatever it is, if it's a win, he's taking it and running with it and trying to sit there and say, well, because of me, this actually worked out great. So this is why I'm president. Well, I mean, you're president for a number of reasons, racism being one thing, but that's a whole nother story. But I love the fact that he claimed this whole thing of, I ended 7 wars. And the more I heard that, the more I want to do research at it. And come to find out, just like I thought, it's full of bullshit. He talked about Israel and Iran because they did have a 12-day war where Israel did launch attacks on Iran. He called himself negotiating a ceasefire, which literally had nothing to do with it because, like most things, when money is involved, 2 warring countries can figure it out. Again, he took credit for it because he negotiated a quote-unquote ceasefire, not really a war. Egypt and Ethiopia, number 2. Because, again, tensions between them and those countries, again, he tried to broker a deal because he's such a master negotiator, which didn't help much as he tried to post on True Social where he said, well, there's peace for now, but that's only because it's a stalemate. Right now, between Egypt and Ethiopia, it's still a tense situation. Again, bullshit. India and Pakistan, same thing. Negotiate a ceasefire. Still in progress between the 2 countries, hardly ending the war. Serbia and Kosovo, again, he tried to negotiate a deal for peace, but unfortunately, what they agreed on never got carried out. Still some beef between those 2. Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Again, he tried to sit there and negotiate some sort of ceasefire. It didn't work with him. It actually escalated. But eventually, between Congo and M23, which was one of the groups representing the countries, are working out a deal without him. Hardly a win for Taco. And also Armenia and Azerbaijan. That's another situation. Rinse and repeat. Called himself performing a ceasefire, but again, they managed to. But actually, what wound up happening is that Arjabani actually retook back Armenia, which again was a whole other issue, but eventually that did lead to the countries working out and signing a peace treaty. Hardly had nothing to do with Taco. And finally, Cambodia and Thailand. which, again, Taco called himself negotiating a ceasefire. Eventually, both countries were able to actually have a peace deal without Taco. So, what are we getting at here, folks? We're getting at here at the simple fact of the matter that Taco claimed to have stopped 7 wars. He didn't. He, again, tried to play the master negotiator because that's what a con man does. A con man sits there and pulls himself to be, oh, well, I'm great at making deals. Not really. Every deal that Taco has ever made has ended in massive failure or bankruptcy. That's just being honest. Every deal Taco has ever done has either ended in massive failure or bankruptcy. Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, Trump Airlines, Trump University, to name a few. But what also amazed me, though, because he was at the UN, right? Escalators weren't working. He complained about that. His fat ass could learn to actually go up some steps. Then complained about his teleprompter not working, which, again, he jabbed at former President Joe Biden about teleprompter. And you would think, for someone that made fun of others, that he would turn around and, accept the joke himself. Not his state-run media, Fox News. And here's the thing I will say. It is amazing to me because I'm going to make a comparison between what is being said on Fox News and what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. I'm going to make a comparison, but understand we're going to play a little bit of Fox News. Now, I understand it's Fox News, but I want to play it in its clip because you have those who watch Fox News, even though Fox News is not a news station. They are an entertainment network. The Dominion lawsuit proved that. They fall like it's gospel. I want y'all to hear this one thing that was said, that these idiots are talking about the president's trip at the UN. And I just, again, want to point out heavily, this is Fox News. And yet it's crickets about what this man's about to say.
Highlighting a Telegraph article from Sunday saying UN staffers were joking about how they may turn off the escalators to mark Trump's arrival. Jesse, you're the person I go to when I want to know what's behind the story, what's going on with the escalator. What do you think?
Yeah, they sabotaged them.
Yeah.
And they could have hurt the first lady.
Yeah.
Trump would have fallen and he would have gotten back up. But,
they would have blamed it on his rhetoric.
And then they sabotaged the teleprompter.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an insurrection. And what we need to do is either leave the UN or we need to bomb it. It is in New York, though, right?
Yeah,
there could be some fallout there.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe gas it?
No.
Let's not do that.
Gas it. Okay. But we need to destroy it. Maybe just, can we demolish the building?
We could turn it
Have
into,
everybody leave and then we'll demolish the building?
we could turn it into affordable housing.
Okay.
That's what you do, affordable housing.
No, I don't like that. I like nice sky rises, Dana, the expensive condominiums. You
trying to
see
win an
the
election
East
here.
River from there. No, this is absolutely unacceptable, and I hope they get to the bottom of it, and I hope they really injure emotionally the people that did it. It is.
I'm going to stop it right there because think about what he just said. He just sat there and said, because a escalator wasn't working when the president's fat ass was on it, that a teleprompter wasn't working when Taco wanted to talk, that because of what he said, that he suggested we bomb the UN building. This man on a network television show just sat there and said, because of the quote unquote embarrassment that Taco and the first hostage had to endure, that maybe we should bomb the building. He said it on Fox News. And I played that clip in its entirety, so all you Charlie Kirk fans can't sit there and say, well, it was taken out of context. No, that douchebag, Jesse Waters, meant every word of what he said. He meant every effing word. And yet, where is the condemnation from all the people that were ready to condemn Jimmy Kimmel? Where are all the people that were ready to condemn when we sat there and said, Charlie Kirk is not the saint that you think he is, or, that his words, that he inspired a generation, that how dare you speak upon a dead man? Where are those very same people? I'm going to tell you, they're the same ones watching Fox News and silently agreeing that the selective outrage that they had for Jimmy Kimmel is at the same time the same quietness they have with Jesse Waters. Because we just showed one of the Fox News anchors apologize within 48 hours of saying that homeless people should be euthanized. Homeless people or those that are with those with special needs need to be euthanized. And then he turns around and says, well, I need to apologize because that was a very callous remark. Oh, he apologized. So we're good, right? We're good. We're good. He apologized. And yet Jesse Waters just sat there and said, maybe we need to bomb the UN for the embarrassment of one individual. It's crickets. Crickets. And at the same time, I am asking the question, where is your selective outrage now? Oh, it's only because we spoke out against the right. Because, you know, if you're from the left, or if you're leftish, or if you're seen as anything but conservative, and you speak about one of them, oh, they're ready to come after you. But when one of them says something that is completely unnecessary and almost downright dangerous rhetoric, it's amazing how quiet they are. But again, I digress. But I point this out because Jimmy Kimmel, who's also Lightning Rod, whose show, because of his comments, although I still say he said nothing wrong, I will still defend he said nothing wrong in his monologue. But his monologue, which basically I think it was Monday, in which he said something about Charlie Kirk, saying that, sad that he was taken off the board. But it's amazing how MAGA is doing everything they can to make it seem like it's not one of theirs that took him out. That's all he said. And then all of a sudden, oh, it's hateful. It's hateful what Jimmy Kimmel said. And of course, ABC knee-jerked, or I should say Disney, because Disney, in the end, Disney owns everything. But Disney/ABC knee-jerk reaction said, we're going to pull the Jimmy Kimmel Live show indefinitely because of the comments. Sinclair Broadcasting Group wanted their pound of flesh. They wanted Jimmy Kimmel to apologize and a nice sizable donation to Turning Point, the conservative bullshit grifting artist company that Charlie Kirk started. Of course, he didn't either, which I'm glad he didn't. And then it's amazing that you had artists, whether they were comedians or celebrities or actors, folks came together for Jimmy Kimmel. And then the big one, a lot of folks were canceling their Disney/Hulu Plus subscriptions. And Disney, as of yesterday, lost reportedly $4 billion in revenue. It's gotta hurt to look at your profit margins and realize you lost $4 billion in a matter of a day. That's gotta hurt. I admit that. That's really gotta hurt. But what happened? Oh, Disney Hulu folded like a lawn chair. Jimmy Kimmel was back on the show just last night and didn't miss a beat in going after everybody. Even poking fun at those that say, hey guys, we're back. You can reactivate your Hulu subscriptions because we need to recoup that $4 billion. And then Hulu turns around and does a price hike. They can call it the cost of doing business. I know a shakedown when I see one. It just means that pirate flag is going to start flying in a lot more places they intended. But the reason why I bring up Jimmy Kimmel is because of what was said about him, and that it led to his show temporarily being on hold. Yet Jesse Waters over on Fox News The 5 can say exactly what he wants to say, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. And we should be very concerned. Why should we be very concerned? Because the right has said some crazy things. Even the fact where you had, again, Taco putting his foot in his mouth about, and I cannot make this up. He literally talked about the children in Baltimore. And take how you will, but this is what he said when asked about the crime in Baltimore and about the youth there. And let's be honest, Baltimore's population is, the majority of it is African American, for all those that were wondering.
To be good. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 2 years, they're going to be criminals. They were born to be criminals, frankly. They were born to be criminals.
And I want to speak directly to our children as well.
He sat there and said that. Now, for all those that really want some context, I'm going to give you a little bit more to go off of because he also said it, but this is how he started.
Criminals. These are hardcore criminals. You know, we took many people off the streets of Washington, D.C. They're hardcore. They're not going to be good. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 2 years, they're going to be criminals. They were born to be criminals, frankly. They were born to be criminals, and they're tough and mean, and they'll cut your throat, and they won't even think about it the next day. They won't even remember that they did it. And we're not going to have those people. Washington, D.C. is now a safe zone. It's
amazing, right? He sat there and said, these people in 10 years, and again, he smeared, this is in Chicago. My apologies. It's Chicago, not Baltimore he was talking about. But he sat there and said, these kids are born criminals. In 10 years, they're going to be hoodlums. They're going to be a menace. He said this about children in Chicago. And yet, I don't see outside of us, where's the outrage? Where is this whole thing of we should be concerned? That's the thing I'm not understanding. Where is the we should be concerned? Why isn't he being called out on what he said? And I'm gonna tell you why. Because a lot of people agree with him. Those are the same people that need to be put on a watch list if you agree with that rhetoric. Instead of saying, oh, no, not everybody up there is born criminal. Not everybody is going to be a degenerate in 10 years. And then he tried to do the whole safe space, which we covered in the previous podcast about what happened in Washington, D.C. It's not he can call it safe, but crime was already declining in a downward rate before he decided to roll the National Guard in. But the fact of the matter that he sat there and said what he said, and again, with him, Jesse Waters, it is amazing to me how nothing more is being said, that nothing else is being called out about him. I just think, to be kind of honest, it's a little bit of bullshit. But speaking of things that are bullshit, I was worried, and I shouldn't be surprised. The Supreme Court, or I like to call it Trump's personal legal court, strikes again, allowing Taco to fire his FTC commissioner.
Well, she was fired, reinstated by a court order, and now breaking this hour, a Supreme Court justice rules that she can be fired again, or at least until the whole court weighs in. Rebecca Slaughter was one of 2 Democratic FTC commissioners fired by President Trump. She sued the president, claiming he didn't have the power to do so, trying to vindicate her right to serve the remainder of her term. Well, the FTC, as you know, regulates everything from social media to cigarette ads, protecting the public from deceptive advertising and unethical business practices. Here is the Commissioner Slaughter, when she joined us in March after Trump gave her the boot the first time.
We are trying to vindicate the law that Congress passed that has been in place for over a century to protect accountability and transparency at the FTC, to make sure that commissioners and the work of the commission is done without fear or favor. And more specifically, that we can take on the biggest companies in America without fear of getting fired for failure to do a favor to the president's friends or donors or corporate allies.
But it looks like Commissioner Slaughter will still be fighting that fear. She eventually won her case in federal court and went back to work last week. But she didn't even have time to unpack her office before, well, she was kicked out again today. Rebecca Slaughter joins me once again. And as you just told me, it is not over until it's over.
And yeah, it's not, because as Ms. Slaughter is right, he has no grounds to fire the Federal Trade Commissioner, except, again, this is where I said this is the dangers of a conservative-leaning Supreme Court, that Taco knows that he has a little bit of allegiance there. I mean, between Kavanaugh and Barrett and Scalia and Thomas, and Chief Justice Roberts, which they all lean to the right. I'm just saying, when you got a conservative leaning Supreme Court that have already done the bidding on 3 out of the 6 cases that you set up there, I can see why Taco would be confident enough to sit there and say, I'll just take it to the Supreme Court. I don't like your decision. I'll take it to the Supreme Court. And that's what he's done with every case. He has done this with every case that has not gone his way. If he did not outright win the case, what does he do? It is literally a fast food line to the Supreme Court, to where I'm surprised the Supreme Court doesn't really hear a lot of these cases, but yet somehow hears every case that Taco's a part of. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, how is that not a conflict of interest? You're basically doing the president's bidding. On top of that, just like Lisa Cook, who is the Federal Reserve governor of the Federal Reserve, he had no basis to fire her, but wanted Pam Bondi, his AG lapdog, to investigate her holdings because he says that he believes that she may have fumbled the numbers on her mortgage applications, which I think it's kind of funny coming from the guy that was just convicted of mortgage fraud and therefore he is a felon. But it's amazing to me that he's going after, and again, this should not be surprising, he is going after every Democratic person in certain positions. And the FTC, Federal Trade Commission. Understand this. The Federal Trade Commission works with the SEC. The SEC is supposed to be the watchdog over Wall Street. I am just pointing out that what would happen if you had loyalists in the FTC, loyalists in the SEC? Wall Street would have a heyday. Wall Street would have exactly what it asked for. And that's scary because the last time Wall Street got everything they wanted, they won the Glass-Steagall Act. And once that Glass-Steagall Act was gone and where larger banks could play with smaller banks' money, that's where we had a recession. You play with house money and you lost. Imagine what the FTC would be if it was all Taco loyalists. That's a scary freaking thought is all I'm saying. But speaking of Pam Bondi, because again, she is Trump's lapdog, it's kind of bad where your boss is pretty much telling you to prosecute his enemies and, well, you look like a deer in headlights.
President Trump is publicly pressuring Attorney General Pam Bondi to prosecute his political enemies. He's calling for charges against Democratic Senator Adam Schiff, former FBI Director James Comey, and New York Attorney General Letitia James. ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers and Washington Bureau Managing Editor Catherine Falders have more on that. Hi to you both. So, Karen, why is the president doing this now, and how are lawmakers responding to this public call on the Attorney General?
Yeah, Diane, that was a public call in a social media post where the president put that pressure on Attorney General Pam Bondi. He wrote, quote, "We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility." The president, Diane, writing, "Justice must be served now." No surprise, reaction from Democrats has been very strong in terms of backlash. We heard from Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, who says that this is the path to a dictatorship. And he says this is very frightening and damaging to the Republic. Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, a Democrat, was on ABC's This Week yesterday and said that this is dangerous. This is a potential danger point for this country. And he said that it is unconstitutional and deeply immoral for the president to jail or silence his political enemies. I do want to note, Diane, that Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, a Republican, also pushed back on this, saying he disagreed when he said that the Biden administration was going after Trump loyalist and the president, former president himself, and he thinks it is wrong now for the Trump administration to do the same.
And Catherine, the president's also touting his appointee for the top federal prosecutor for the Virginia.
So I gotta stop it right there because again, Bondi, you think you are the attorney, you are the AG, the attorney general. You are the top dog. Your job is to check not only all government offices. You're supposed to be also keep the president in check as well. And of course, with Pam Bondi, she's basically being told, hey, prosecute all of my political enemies. You know, the same thing that, Taco accused Biden of doing with the DOJ and the FBI and the CIA, especially with his quote unquote illegal raids during Mar-a-Lago when everything was done by the book. But what killed me about Pam Bondi is this story that came out that really isn't being talked about, where the so-called border czar was actually caught in a sting of accepting a bribe, trying to bribe federal officials, and yet how quiet that investigation has stopped.
The Justice Department closed an investigation into border czar Tom Homan, who was accused of taking $50,000 in an FBI sting operation. Washington managing editor Catherine Falders joins us now for more. So, Catherine, what exactly was Tom Homan accused of?
Well, this is an investigation that started as part of a broader probe under the previous administration, and Tom Homan obviously became part of this here. So he is accused of, according to our sources and what the FBI found, as part of this FBI sting operation in which he allegedly took $50,000 in cash as part of this operation, with the FBI posing as business executives in exchange for favorable contracts, if you will, with Trump should he become president. Of course, this was before Trump was president. So last year, of course, as Trump was campaigning. So what happened was this investigation transferred, of course, over to the Trump administration, Kira. And then in the beginning of the Trump administration, we're told that it was shut down, that the probe was shut down. Now, the White House is saying that that's because it was extensively investigated and that there was no evidence of a crime here, but they haven't really said much beyond that. In the White House briefing today, the press secretary said that Homan never took that $50,000, but didn't really elaborate on the specifics of that. So that was a bit unclear, but the reality was they closed this investigation and they haven't provided any summary of it, why it was taking place, what exactly were the circumstances involving Homan. So there's still a lot of questions on that front as well.
And again, why is this not being talked about more? Why is this not being talked about more? The border czar, the guy who is basically following the Nazi Stephen Miller's quota of getting 3,000 deportations a day, and yet border czar, Mr. Homan, the guy who has no problem breaking up families, the guy who, every time I look at him, he's like a walking Jim Crow sign to me. But with all that being said, he was caught accepting $50K in an FBI sting operation that Pam Bondi, because again, the AG doing Taco's bidding, said that no, we're going to close this investigation. There's no credible evidence of wrongdoing. There'll be no more questions. Nothing to see here, folks. And I am shocked, mind you, that more news, there's no news outlets. Like, why was he being targeted? Why did the FBI launch this sting operation against him? Why was $50,000 the quote unquote bait for Tom Homan? Was it for services rendered? See, this is the thing I don't get. And again, this is Taco protecting his loyalists. That when you have your AG on deck, every investigation into your loyalist gets closed. When more news stations, more media publications should be saying, wait a second, why was he under investigation? And it needs to be screamed louder. It needs to be investigated. It needs to be pushed more. I get it. Reporters already have a hard enough time trying to get Taco and everybody from his press secretary down to his administration is being uncooperative when it comes to the public. I get it. It is a journalists already have hard enough jobs as it is. But that right there should be a lightning rod to throwing it out there. Like, why is your board czar? Why was he under an investigation for something like this? And why was nothing done about it? That alone screams volumes about what should have been done from that position. But again, Trump has, the best way I can say about Taco, Taco learned from his first go around. This is just him. This is him learning from his mistakes and being a little bit cleaner about it. But speaking of clean, I guess we do got to talk about this because, again, with Charlie Kirk, I guess we can watch the grifting extract. I guess we can watch the grifting extract. I guess we can watch the grifting extravaganza. I'm trying to say funeral, but what comes out is grifting extravaganza. But yes, Charlie Kirk's funeral did happen. And again, The grifting extravaganza has begun.
He died far too early. He was also ready to die. He left this world without regrets. He did 100% of what he could every day. But I want you to know something. Charlie died with incomplete work, but not with unfinished business.
Indeed, Charlie was killed for expressing the very ideas that virtually everyone in this arena and most other places throughout our country deeply believed in. But the assassin failed in his quest because Charlie's message has not been silenced. It now is bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and it's not even close.
When I see Erica and her strength and her courage, I'm reminded of a famous expression. The storm whispers to the warrior that you cannot withstand my strength. And the warrior whispers back, I am the storm. Erica is the storm. We are the storm.
His legacy must be that when they took his life, 1 million more Charlies stepped up to fill the void.
My friends, for Charlie, we must remember that he is a hero to the United States of America, and he is a martyr for the Christian faith. May our Heavenly Father give us the courage to live as Charlie lived. That is what we must do for Charlie. You ran a good race, my friend. I love you. We've got it from here.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do. The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us.
The lesson of Charlie's life is that you should never underestimate what one person can do with a good heart, a righteous cause, a cheerful spirit, and the will to fight, fight, fight. Have to fight.
You know what? I apologize. There's some things I know I do show on this podcast. I apologize profusely because yes, the grifting extravaganza. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be a funeral. It's supposed to be a funeral. It's a grifting extravaganza. And white women tears, let's be honest, white women tears. White women tears are like ratings getters. Get the ratings up. And I'm not, and people are going to say, well, that's horrible. Charlie Kirk was a person. He didn't deserve. We're not celebrating the killer. We're not celebrating the shooter. We aren't. If you notice the whole entire time, I just sat there and said that this memorial service felt like a grifting extravaganza. It didn't feel like they were, really mourning somebody. That's just my opinion. But I'm not sitting here saying that Charlie Kirk deserved his end. I'm not saying that. Although we had a whole podcast about Charlie Kirk in his own words where I sat there and said he grifted off hate. You grifted off hate, bigotry, xenophobia, misogynistic views. And could that have led to you breeding the same group of people that would turn on you? Perhaps. You cannot grift off hate and expect peace. You cannot spew hate and expect peace. I'm just saying, this whole thing, whenever it comes to the right, it's always this whole thing of God, religion, and family. I mean, faith, family, and religion. That's always what it comes down to. But it amazes me so. Amazes me wholeheartedly that whenever it comes to that, you know, we're supposed to whitewash and forget. But I've said all this before. They're whitewashing every word he said, except the fact, well, he was a fighter. No, he was a bigot, a white nationalist. He was racist, and he was a dick. And I've got no problem repeating that because, in his own words, because your words outlive you. But yes, that whole thing was an extravagant grifting service, and also for all those that did attend, a great way to find companions. Why? And I'm not saying it's a coincidence, but I got to bring this up. Why is it whenever there's a Republican convention, Grindr, a hookup for the alternative lifestyle, you know, for the non-religious, for the non-heterosexuals, Grinders is for hooking up with same-sex partners. Why is it that whenever there's a Republican convention, why is it when, in this case, a memorial service for Charlie Kirk, that Grindr had reported outages in the same area where these events occur? At the same time, Grindr had an outage in the same area in Arizona where Charlie Kirk's memorial service was. Coincidence? I'm just saying, some of y'all need to come out. Some of y'all need to come out the closet living your truth. Some of y'all are just lying to yourselves. But hey, the next time CPAC comes up, all I got to sit there and say is, if there's another Grindr outage, some of y'all need to come forward. That's all I'm going to say. Because last time I checked, they are very accepting the LGBTQ plus community. But here's another thing that kills me about Charlie Kirk, and I didn't, no pun intended, but it's how they're treating him. He's not a martyr. He's not a saint. And yet they're trying to put him on currency. They're trying to literally give him his own day, almost succeeding in giving him his own day of remembrance. And on top of that, here's where the messed up part about all this is. That I expect this from Republicans. They're going to toe the party line. They're going to jump on the grifting train. Everybody except Candace Owens, because she can't get a seat because, you know, they finally realized she's black. But it is amazing to me how Republicans have jumped on this train, and so have Democrats, especially in this measure.
The U.S. House passed a resolution honoring the life and work of conservative influencer Charlie Kirk. He died last Wednesday after he was shot while speaking at Utah Valley University. The representatives passed it by a vote of 310 to 58, and it refers to Kirk as a, quote, courageous American patriot, and refers to his assassination as an act of political violence. Some Democrats, however, had requested a more broad resolution that condemned an increase in violence, as well as a resolution that made a smaller reference to Kirk's legacy.
So, number one, he was murdered, not assassinated. I mean, I'm sorry, he is not a martyr. But the one thing I wanted to point out was this right here. This is the motion that was supposed to be honoring Charlie Kirk. I expected, and I'm going to be honest, this is in the House, I expected every Republican was going to vote yay, hence the 215. Here's the part that bothers me a little bit. The Democratic side, you had 95 individuals. 95 individuals voted for this resolution, while 58 said no, 38 were present, and 22 did not vote. 95 Democrats. And here's the one thing I'll say about Democrats that's always bothered me. You want to know why you have such a hard time trying to convince people that you are better than Republicans? You have no unity. 95 Democrats in the House decided to vote yes on this. For reasons beyond my comprehension, they voted yes on this, and I'm trying to figure out why. To honor a white nationalist still makes no sense to me. Makes no sense. Except the fact that maybe, just maybe, you might have agreed to what he was saying. And this is why Democrats will have a hard time. There's no unity. Well, I can see it now. Well, Will, what did you want? Did you want all Democrats to vote no? Yeah. That would have at least shown some unity. That would have at least shown that where you stand on it, you stand on business, that would have at least shown us, okay, maybe they're not all full of shit. But 95 Democrats joined 215 Republicans in getting this motion to the Senate. And all I can sit there and say is, I can see why Jasmine Crockett and AOC are pissed. Because you still have the old guard of the Democrats, which is basically moderate, modern Republicans, still, for some odd reason, thinking that bipartisanship can work, voted yes. And it makes no sense. Also, what doesn't make any sense, guys, we talked about this a few months ago, but apparently this is becoming a thing because the immigration system in the United States is messed up. But old Taco has a solution: gold cards.
In Washington, President Trump signing a proclamation adding a $100,000 annual visa fee for highly skilled foreign workers. He's also rolling out a $1 million gold card visa as a pathway to U.S. citizenship. Both plans are expected to face legal challenges. Senior White House correspondent Selena Wang joins me now from D.C. with the latest. Selena, let's start with the H-1B. Explain to us how that visa is used and if that could actually change now.
Yeah, Ike, I mean, this is a major change. The president signing a proclamation that now requires this $100,000 annual fee for this H-1B visa for highly skilled foreign workers. Now, this could be a huge blow to big tech firms that rely heavily on highly skilled foreign workers to fill key roles. And the Trump administration is arguing that this is going to crack down on a system that companies use to avoid hiring American citizens and to undercut wages. But supporters of this program say that it is absolutely critical to fill these highly skilled roles that are essential for filling talent gaps, for roles that they can't necessarily find here in the U.S., and for keeping these companies competitive. Critics of what the administration is doing here are also warning that this could reduce America's ability to attract the best talent, innovate, and to grow the economy. But what we're seeing here is that this is just the latest move, Ike, from the Trump administration to not only crack down on illegal immigration, but also to reshape legal immigration in this country, Ike.
Now, Selena, the president also says the U.S. will start selling that gold card visa for $1 million. Can you break this down, how that would work too?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a $1 million gold card visa that the president announced he will start selling after a vetting process. And for companies, it would cost $2 million to sponsor an employee. The Trump administration also announced a Trump Platinum card that will be available for $5 million, Ike, and allow foreigners to spend up to 270 days in the United States without being subject to U.S. taxes on non-U.S. income. Again, Ike, this is all part of the president's efforts to really overhaul our nation's immigration system.
Yeah, that's gonna fix our immigration system. Line his pockets. That's, you know what kills me? At first, when we said this story, we're like, this has gotta be the Onion. He can't be this. He cannot be this bold, and yet he is, because he's like, well, for tech companies, for everybody else, for your workers, and let's be honest, for most tech companies, most of their employees are overseas. Most. That's just being honest. Coders, programmers, I can keep going on and on. It's the reason why most IT tech jobs usually ask you, will you need help with citizenship, or would you need help with getting a work visa? It's on most IT job postings. But with that being said, instead of you fixing the issue, because it ain't been but 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks since the Hyundai incident. You know, when ICE decided to raid a Hyundai factory in Georgia, to where all the workers were from South Korea, and at the same time they were there to actually train the Georgia workers to run the plant. And remember how one overzealous woman decided to call ICE, sitting there saying, "Oh, well, they have illegal immigrants there." And correct me if I'm wrong here, but at the time of this podcast, all their paperwork seemed to work out. But what did South Korea do? They turned around and got their people out of there and got them back home. And now Hyundai is rethinking its $1 billion investment. The factory that's still in Georgia has not even been back up and running yet. And also, here's the crazy part. LG and Samsung may turn around and do the same things, because they were looking to move they were looking to start in doing American investments. But thanks to Taco and the Gestapo ICE, you might have messed it up with the state of Georgia and cost a number of jobs. But oh no, instead of fixing the immigration system, we're going to make you pay for it. Here's gold and platinum cards if you're willing to pay $100,000 or $1 million. If you're willing to pay $1 million, to which most tech companies are like, no, we won't. Well, this is supposed to encourage tech companies to look to Americans. It won't, because I'm going to tell you why. As a tech person, I'm going to tell you why. Tech companies want to get people who are already experienced, do not need to be trained, and they want them to hit the ground running. That's why most tech companies look overseas. They do. They look overseas for their workers, and they bring them over here on work visas. They're here for a temporary time. They pay them. Once their contract is up, they turn around and go home. And now tech companies have been doing that for decades. But now, thanks to Taco and the way he does immigration, he's like, if you want them over here, you're going to have to pay. And I will give them a platinum card or a gold card because it's got his face on it. And again, this goes back to this whole thing of he wants to be able to sit there and say, I'm putting in something that works. When we truly do know that the immigration system needs a massive takedown and restructuring. But it is amazing to me that only one party, historically, so far, has introduced a path to citizenship. And you can say what you want about DACA and the DREAM Act. You can sit there and say what you want. At least it was a shot in the dark that they tried to push through under President Obama, to which Republicans, because it was a black man introducing that idea, couldn't handle it. Yet now, Taco is saying, hey, buy my gold and platinum cards. You can bring your workers over here because money speaks. And if there's anything that a con man loves, it's money. And at the same time, he knows that one or two things are going to happen. Either that those companies are going to pony up, or, and I say or, they're going to find ways of getting the money up. Because if you think this is going to drive tech companies and other companies to look to Americans to fill those jobs, ask the hospitality industry what happened, and with farmers, as we're about to talk to right now, who are having a hard time finding workers, losing crops and profit. Even more so in the soybeans, because China's not buying from us anymore. And again, as if history repeats itself, farmers are asking for help.
Desperate for a deal, our soybean farmers are scrambling right now. It's one of our most important crops, and our biggest buyer just isn't buying. American farmers are struggling to find this balance between Trump's tariffs and suffering massive financial losses if a U.S.-China trade deal isn't made. Selling soybeans impacts trade, food security, energy, and our economy. And if China doesn't order our soybeans, it will cost all of us, from farmers feeding their livestock to our packaged foods to even fueling our cars. Ninth generation Kentucky farmer Caleb Ragland says that farmers are in a dire situation, and if a deal isn't made soon, farmers are going to need to start preparing for those devastating losses. American Soybean Association President Caleb Ragland, from his tractor in the middle of his field, joining me live from Magnolia, Kentucky. I know you were tilling just a few minutes ago, so thank you for taking a break, Caleb, jumping in and firing up with us there inside your tractor. Question for you. It's great to have you. Tough circumstances, but we need your voice. China imports 61% of the global soybean supply, Caleb. If China doesn't start buying again from the U.S., tell me what's going to happen to you. Tell me what's going to happen to our economy.
We as American soybean farmers have a lot invested in infrastructure and the way we raise our crops, our crop rotations, and it's not something we can simply just jump around and dabble in one crop one year and something else the next. We have long-term processes that are in place, and American soybean farmers are really good at producing soybeans. What we need is strong markets and opportunity. China is our biggest export customer. Soybeans are the largest agriculture product that's exported. And last year, 25% of all soybeans produced in the U.S. went to China. Before the first trade war, as much as 33% of total U.S. soybean production went to China. Currently, China has 0 soybeans on the books for this crop that is being harvested now, and that is alarming for our industry. 25% of our exports of our soybeans produced go to China. That's half of all exports from the U.S., more than all other foreign customers combined. We can't simply snap our fingers and replace this valuable market. Our farm families are dependent on this market. There's 500,000 soybean producing farmers across the United States, and the China market is vital for our livelihood. Many farmers, such as myself, have no other income other than our farms. And suddenly, when your biggest customer just disappears, that's a dire circumstance. What we need is trade and opportunity. Right now, we're at a 20% price disadvantage to the tariffs and the trade war to our counterparts in South America. And that just makes us uncompetitive and makes us lose the market. And we need a change, and we need it now.
So, Caleb, let me ask you then. President Trump, as you know, is speaking with Chinese President Xi Jinping right at this moment. What's your message to Trump as he talks with China about trade?
My message to President Trump is rural America is vital to the viability and long-term success of this country. It's not just ag, but it's rural America as a whole. And we need this market, and we need actions now, not just words. Months down the road is not quick enough to solve our problem because our exports are seasonal, and we need to get soybeans moving now because this crop needs to move. It needs a home. It needs a market. And if we wait till months down the road, the Chinese market will move on to the Brazilian crop that'll start to be harvested in January and February. And it takes planning to get sales done and the logistics. And we need those actions taking place now, not months down the road. We have financial obligations that we have to meet here by the end of the year. And if we can't meet those obligations, many of our farm families are going to go out of business. And that will be horrible for our industry and for rural America as a whole.
Well, and just before we go quickly, if we can, Caleb, we're short on time. How will that impact everyday Americans?
Well, Americans eat 3 times a day. They are dependent on farmers, whether they realize it or not. And Americans need our farmers to be successful because agriculture trickles down and has a huge economic impact. And it has a daily impact just in having the safe and plentiful food that we have to eat every day. We take it for granted because it's something we don't have to worry about, but we have the safest, the cheapest, and the most variety of any food supply in the world. And it's a wonderful thing we do as farmers. And we have to be financially successful in order to continue to do that. And right now that is in jeopardy with this trade war.
Believe me, there's not one American that is not impacted by good farming. That's for sure. We need.
At the same time, for all those that are wondering or playing the home game, Kentucky voted for Trump. I mean, he's the soybean president. He's the soybean association president from Kentucky. And anytime, and I'm just saying, guys, anytime I literally hear, well, we really need help here, I go to the state, because what I usually look at from the state is, I look at it from the simple fact of the matter is, well, who'd you vote for? Because who you voted for, to me, screams volumes. It does. It screams volumes. At the same time, farmers have been bailed out by Taco going on 3 times now. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He got what he needed to skip all those court cases, to avoid prosecution, to avoid jail. And you think he wants to help out farmers? No, because he doesn't want to bail him out again. Because China is our biggest purchaser of soybeans. China has this ability to where, hey, either you cut us a deal or we'll go to Brazil. And again, I can't feel bad for farmers because if you voted for Taco, this is your harvest. You reap what you sow. At the same time, the issue is the way that business and agriculture work. They are not working in favor of Americans, and the guy who could actually make changes isn't too interested in helping you unless it's for a soundbite. And trust me, it will probably be a soundbite that'll get his attention, but not surprised by that. But a few more stories, guys, before we get to our feel-good news segment. I am glad about this one because for a second, I was a little bit worried. I am talking about this lineup to where a judge has thrown out Taco's ridiculous $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times, saying, it's improper, it's invective. Pretty much, you don't have the evidence to show that this paper has basically smeared you. And the reason why this is important, guys, is because of the more recent, going back to Jimmy Kimmel, to where the FCC president, David Carr, wanted to literally go after Kimmel because Sinclair had marching orders. Sinclair Broadcasting had marching orders. At the same time, let's not forget CBS, where Taco sued CBS over a 60 Minutes interview involving the former then Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, and to which he said the way that interview was done painted him in a negative light. They were interviewing her, not him. And what happened? Well, Paramount, or I should say the CEO of Paramount, wanted to buy certain productions. He wanted to go after Skydance. And he knew that he would have to appease the golden calf. And how did he appease the golden calf? By caving. They settled in a lawsuit. 60 Minutes, the editor for 60 Minutes had stepped down. And at the same time, a moderator was put in at CBS to monitor everything that is being produced by said network. And that guy's job is to report to Taco in the White House. Congratulations, you have just turned CBS into state-run media. Now, why are we worried? Because he was doing the same thing for newspapers. That if he doesn't like what a newspaper puts out about him, all of a sudden he gets the suing because that's all he knows, litigation. But here's the problem. Not only can he use the Department of Justice as his own legal group, not only does he have the Supreme Court as his own personal clown court, it is scary that some businesses may cave to him, that everybody's scared. And I know I know how the Frack We Got Here is very small, but I'm still proud of it. But we got no problem calling it like it is. Even though we made those shots, we may, explain our disposition. We do speak from an area of fact. Taco is trying to literally fulfill the Project 2025 goal of basically controlling all media. You can see that with Jimmy Kimmel Live. He did that with Stephen Colbert. You can see that he's going after everybody that literally does not kiss his ass. He goes after everybody that doesn't kiss his ass. That's just being honest. And that is why I'm so glad a judge saw reason and said, hell no, this is going to be thrown out. Will he do an appeal? Yeah. But I'm still worried that Taco may turn around and say, well, I'm taking this to the Supreme Court. And there begins the clown court all over again, where we have to be worried because the Supreme Court is a conservative-leaning court. But we'll see where it goes to from there. Never rarely sober Pete Hegseth, currently the Secretary of Defense. I refuse to call him Secretary of War. I refuse to call him that. But anyway, decided to go further and sitting there saying, hey, for journalists, you have to sign a document that says that you will not investigate beyond what you're looking into whenever it comes to the Department of Defense. Or you have to basically have whatever you're reporting on has to be approved by the government, or you will have your press credentials revoked. First and foremost, he can't do that. There's a little thing called freedom of the press, the First Amendment. The government cannot dictate what the press talks about. The idea of the press is to inform the public of the goings on and the going activity and the current events of their country as well as the world. Pete Hegseth may not like what happens, but hey, you were unqualified from Jump Street to be Secretary of Defense anyway. You can tell because you had to literally tell people, well, if I'm going to be secretary, I promise to be sober. The fact that you cannot be sober for such an important position screams volumes about your character. But now you're worried that quote unquote, reporters may expose you. Let's explain something, Mr. Hegseth. It does not take a lot to expose you, sir. We literally have seen that in the fact that you can keep text messages to yourself. But again, freedom of the press. And this goes right back to, again, state-run media that they're trying to do. But I'm just saying. But the last story that we got, guys, comes from Texas A&M, from a president that is stepping down, basically of a classroom video that, well, how can I explain this? That basically because Taco at the time wanted certain things to be taught in universities, and this one student wasn't going. But here's the video.
Of our remarks on gender and sexuality. Moving from last class. What did we didn't get to in our last class?
I just have a question because I'm not entirely sure this is legal to be teaching. Because according to our president, there's only 2 genders, and he said that he would be freezing agencies' funding programs that promote gender ideology. And this also very much goes against not only myself, but a lot of people's religious beliefs. And so I am not going to participate in this because it's not legal, and I don't want to promote something that is against our president's laws as well as against my religious beliefs. Yes.
You are under misconception that what I'm saying is.
Can you explain to me how teaching us about gender identity and transgenderism and that there's more sexes than
gender isn't illegal.
Huh?
My gender isn't illegal.
Gender? What do you mean? Your gender is not illegal. According to President Trump's executive order, if you want me to read the paragraph in the order itself.
If you are uncomfortable in this class, we do have the right to leave.
Yes.
What we are doing is not illegal. And if you would like to make it claim that it is, you need to talk to the department or the head of undergrad.
Well, I've already been in contact with the president of A&M, and I actually have a meeting with him in person to show all of my documentation tomorrow. But
we are also aware, and this is part of why there was an observer in class.
Yes.
I'm not convinced that your proposal will be effective in stopping me from teaching things that are biologically true, because I do have the legal and ethical authority, all of the professional expertise in this classroom.
Okay. Yeah. No, I am.
So yeah, so for all those that are playing the home game, so what happened is in this class, that this individual was a Texas A&M student kicked out of class because they're saying, well, they're saying that the professor, the educator, was teaching transgender indoctrination, saying that, you know, my president, which I should have known the moment she sat there and said, well, President Trump says that this is considered illegal and that, you know, this goes against my religious beliefs at Texas A&M, which for all intents and purposes screams a lot. But here's the thing, and I'll say this because this really needs to be said. Whatever the president says is not law. And just like that educator said, it's a misconception that if we're accepting of more than just male and female, more than just cisgenders and heterosexual couples, if we are accepting LGBTQ+, same-sex marriages, if we are accepting of all those things, then yes, those sexes are present and at the same time very much here. Now, you may not like it, Because I know some people don't. Some people to this day, and I will never understand it, because again, from religious side, especially if you're Christians, and I'm not trying to go down this hole, but this is the reason why Texas A&M's president is stepping down over this, because again, a lot of people are on this woman's side, talking about, oh, well, it was against her religious beliefs. Number one, you're in college. Unless this college is of a religious standing, the education is public, which means you don't have to be there. You don't. And what kills me about this is the religious beliefs. Well, what's the religious belief? Because my whole thing is you can't be Christian. You cannot love and hate in the same sense and then use the Bible as an excuse. Like some Christians will always kill me. Well, I may not agree with the lifestyle because the Bible's against it. Oh, you mean the Old Testament? You know, the same Old Testament that allowed slavery, selling of daughters, stoning of people, not working on Sundays, not taking 2 grains from the same field, not touching the skin of an undead pig. I can keep going down the list because if you really want to be honest, the Old Testament reads like Game of Thrones, except with just deities involved. But we're in 2025. This is a student who swore down it's indoctrination, but it's not. It's education. And I agree with the educator in the classroom. You don't have to agree, but you also have the right to leave because we're teaching the right things. And that's the thing. Now, unfortunately, this did lead to the professor getting fired because, again, it's about gender. And it never ceased to amaze me that you have those out there who will look at gender and go, well, it should be man and woman. No. Once we've accepted differences in genders, how genders and identification, what pronouns you go by, once we've accepted all of this, then it becomes the norm. You can't sit there, plug your ears, throw your head in the sand and say, no, that's not what I believe. You can live your life however you choose to, as can someone else who is different from you. But your denial of their identity does not equal righteousness. That's where nationalism and bigotry comes from. Charlie Kirk proved that. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, it is kind of messed up. The professor and the Texas A&M University president did actually resign from their positions, and they're calling it a moral victory. No, it's not. This is you calling out factual knowledge and screaming indoctrination while forcing your way of life on people who do not live the way you live. That's indoctrination. But we're going to move on to our feel good segment because usually how the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes it's using faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday, tomorrow's hump day, and we will leave you guys out some good vibrations. Hoping this story will do that, about dads trying to stay in shape and also trying to join a community of actually supporting their kids.
Let's go, let's go.
Every Sunday morning in Los Angeles,
How we feeling today? Feeling great.
these dads are ready to run with only one free hand.
Do you have like one hand on it, one hand doing the regular running motion?
That's definitely me.
Nutritionist and personal trainer Hezekiah Johnson here founded this nonprofit called Rolling with Dads, which runs a lot deeper than just a running club with strollers.
We are trying to foster a community of fathers that need the ability to connect.
Hezekiah and his vice president, Eric Martin Jr., first connected a few years ago as they bonded over both trying to raise their sons following the loss of their own fathers.
That's just something that, kind of hurts me to this day. Just wishing and having that acknowledgement to know that, hey, son, you're doing great.
After getting their nonprofit status approved, in January, they were finally able to launch Rolling with Dads.
We're rolling deep today. We're rolling deep.
Which, yes, encourages exercise, but also provides a chance to connect over anything from sports to just a little shared experience.
It's always great to know that they do the same thing. It's like, nah, it's normal. Okay, don't worry about it. They do this around that age.
Up next, Hezekiah and Eric want to expand to daddy cooking classes, as well as workshops focused on mental health and support.
Let's go.
All while breaking a few stereotypes, too.
Are you guys all rolling up in your minivans
No.
It's BMW.
Yeah.
It's a new day.
So the plan, guys, is to expand Rolling with Dads to more localized chapters across the country, and the Dad's Stroller Running Club is coming to Georgia in October.
And honestly, that's pretty cool. I know for me as a father, I try to stay in shape the best way I can. But hey, rolling with a stroller, that's not a bad idea. Might actually give that a shot. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. Shout out to APR TV. Why? Because How the Frack shows on APR TV. You can definitely download the app on the Roku channel or the Amazon Fire TV app. And there are plenty of other shows I would highly recommend watching on APR TV as well. But also check them out on alwayspressrecord.com. Blur Station. You have heard me talk about Blur Station for nearly 2 years, guys. It is the actual Black Hollywood. It's got the new media as far as movies, television shows, animation, things of that nature. You name it, it's there. $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station, and Blur Station can be streamed on all smart devices, so definitely check that out. And as always, guys, you can definitely find us, How the Frack We Got Here, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram, and on TikTok. Like, share, and subscribe, guys, because we simply cannot do this without you. And again, I do appreciate everybody that definitely does share the love, that does post what's going on. I, from the bottom of my heart, cannot say thank you enough. But definitely check out How the Frack We Got Here, again, on all socials. Outside of that, guys, runforoffice.org. Let me not forget that, because that is a site that actually helps you if you do feel the call to serve, whether it's nationally or locally. That site can actually help you as far as getting your name on the ballot, helping you how to run, and hopefully being an actor, being a more informed person, and actually acting in this Congress, because I cannot stress this enough. The midterms are next year. Republicans are worried. Democrats may or may not get their shit together, but we definitely need to be informed. You definitely need to have folks who are willing to step up, whether to serve locally or serve nationally in the House and the Senate, because I tell you, Democrats, if you get behind progressive women, if you get behind bold progressive women, if you really lead forward with that and start doing the work now and not next year, you will clean up. That is all I'm saying. Outside of that, guys, please don't doom scroll. You know, everything is not doom and gloom. Put down the smartphones or smart devices for a while. Go outside and go enjoy nature. Fall is coming up, so enjoy those last days of summer. Please stay hydrated, but do something that brings you peace, something that makes you laugh. Check on your friends, whether it's call or texting. But simply put, guys, enjoy life. Things will get better, I promise you. At the same time, guys, last thing is about How the Frack We Got Here is all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. We are simply giving you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman as the Federal Reserve Governor, and maybe one day electing our first Black woman be called Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go about our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians, but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, How the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we'll all get through this. Have a good night, guys. Thank you for watching. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. Peace.